All right, guys, so in this chapter, we're going to go over persuasive presentations, and I'm going to focus a little bit more on kind of the, I guess, structuring of your persuasive speech and kind of the information you're going to need in order to successfully craft your persuasive presentation. There's going to be a little bit more about theory and a couple other concepts and ideas and definitions in this chapter that I'm not actually going to go over in this presentation. So just make sure that you're reading and taking good notes because, again, those things are going to be fair game for any kind of exam. So first, to kind of define persuasion and give you an idea of how this is going to be a little bit different than your informative speeches is, whereas with your informative speeches, your goal is basically just to provide us some new information, create a speech that shows me or tells your audience something new and provides some insight into something they didn't really know just so they have that information. Persuasion is more about presenting information in a way to alter or modify someone's attitudes, beliefs, values, or outlook about a topic. So you literally are trying to persuade somebody into thinking differently or feeling differently or kind of changing or altering their values or attitudes about something. And there's three types of persuasive claims that can be made. Basically, three types of categories or three different types of persuasion that can take place. And those are questions of policy, questions of value, and questions of fact. To start, questions of policy, this is persuading for a change of an existing law, a plan, or a policy for creating a new policy. This is where you make suggestions that need to be real and sincere and based on evidence. Examples of this would be like asking what should be done to make a given situation better, or citizens handing out pamphlets on election day in order to have people change policy or go in and vote to change policy. So basically, questions of policy are when you want to change something, when there's a given situation or a given topic at hand or a given process. This is where you're trying to persuade, saying we should change this, we should change this law, we should change this rule, we should change this way that we do things in our local community, we should change the actions that we take regarding these things. These are actual persuasion speeches of persuasion that literally get at we should change something, we should change the order, we should change the way things are institutionalized. So that's questions of policy. Questions of value, this is when you're trying to persuade relative merits. This isn't where there's a policy or anything that's actually written in law or written as a rule or written as a way things are, but this is where it's all about relative merits of value. What's good and what's bad, what's moral, what's immoral. It's where you take a position on something and try to say this is good, this is bad. If you want to talk medicinal marijuana, is it good to have, medicinal marijuana legal, or is it bad to have medicinal marijuana legal? Should children be able to drink at the age of 18? Is that a good or a bad, or young adults, excuse me, should young adults be able to legally drink at the age of 18? Should we have to work a 40-hour work week? Is working too much good, or is working that amount bad, or is it good to work that amount? So this is when you're really just looking at values. This isn't anything set in stone or anything that's written. And you focus on judging what is right or wrong or what is good or bad in any kind of given situation. And we talked about ethos, pathos, and logos before. This really gets at pathos. This really looks at how we can use emotions to persuade people into kind of jumping on board with what it is that we're trying to preach regarding some type of value. Examples of this would be like pharmaceutical companies have the moral responsibility not to test their products on animals. This is where you're trying to make a speech saying animals should not be tested. It's morally wrong. It's morally bad for this. Let me explain to you why this is morally bad and why this is wrong and why you should believe what I'm saying and why you should change the way that you view it if you don't already agree that pharmaceutical companies should test on their animals. Or it is not moral that poverty exists in the United States. You try to give a presentation saying poverty's bad, we should not be a poor country, we should change the way we do things, and we should change the way that we think and value things in order to change poverty. So those are questions of value. It's about what's good or what's bad, what's moral and what's moral on any position, on any type of topic. In questions of fact, this is when someone tries to persuade another person if a fact is true or not, or that something did or did not happen. So this is when you're really trying to say, listen, this is factual evidence, this is objective truth that's taking place here, this is real, we should believe in this, you should buy into this because it's the truth. And this is when you convince your audience that what they're proposing is correct. That what you are proposing is correct. This is where you're presenting something in a way and saying, listen, this is how it really is, so you need to believe in me because this is a fact. So examples of this would be like the captain of the Titanic was solely responsible for the ship's untimely sinking. If you wanted to make that argument, if you had the evidence to prove that, if you had the information to prove that, you can use that to say, hey, listen, the Titanic sank because it was the captain's fault, and this is why I believe this. Texting while driving is a dangerous habit. You'd want to bring in statistics for this topic. You want to bring in information for this topic, showing, look at how many people crash when they're texting. Look at how many deaths have been associated with texting and driving. Look at all the negative outcomes that are statistically and objectively proven that are associated with texting and driving, to show that it's a dangerous habit. So again, with all three of these, whether it's policy, value, or fact, what you're trying to do is alter somebody's attitude, opinion, or belief or value about a particular topic or a particular thing or a particular whatever, but it's a different type of approach, and there's different type of angles you need to use regardless, depending on which category your speech falls under. So how do we craft persuasive arguments? We have to use a lot of different tactics and a lot of different strategies, and four types that they all kind of fall over are arguments by example, argument by analogy, argument by definition, and argument by relationship. Literally what you're trying to do is argue for something. You're trying to argue that your opinion, your view on this is correct, and you have to use these types of tactics in order to get that argument across successfully. So arguments by example is when you use specific examples to support a larger claim. So you're using a bunch of small little anecdotes or stories or examples to build up to a larger overarching argument, overarching persuasive argument, which is your speech that you are making. So examples specific to daily lives and relatable to the audience. If you're talking about, smoking, for example, you want to talk about how you've personally had people in your life, or I know you out there in the audience have had individuals that have suffered from cancer or lung-related issues because of their smoking. You would say things like that. You would use specific things to daily lives. You want to tell people how smoking is expensive and how much it would cost them if they decided to smoke on a daily basis. How much would that cost? What are the health outcomes associated with smoking? What does the research say? And how would this relate to you? If you smoke, you're likely going to increase your chances of having these diseases and illnesses. And then again, you'd also want to include things about how I know each of you have somehow been affected by somebody that smokes, or you know somebody that smokes. You're related to somebody that smokes. You have a relationship with somebody that smokes. You'd want to make as many examples as possible to relate to your audience and connect with your audience. And you want to use inductive reasoning. This is where you're thinking carefully about potential counterexamples that the audience might know in relation to your topic. You want to start thinking about, when you're making your argument, okay, what will they argue back? What will their rebuttal be? What kind of things do they already have in their arsenal to shoot down the argument and the persuasive argument that I'm trying to basically throw at them to influence their thoughts, opinions, or attitudes? You need to be thinking about what are the potential rebuttals and comebacks that your audience is going to have, so that you can use the right types of examples and the right types of information to counterbalance that and still stay on course of your thesis, which whatever it is that you're trying to argue and present as a persuasive topic. There's argument by analogy, and this is where you compare different ideas or examples to reach a conclusion both literally and metaphorically. Like an example of this is like the relationship is like a bad sitcom. So you're talking about there's a relationship between this, and this is a bad situation. It's like a bad sitcom. The argument is based on the audience's understanding of the comparison. So this is when you're taking a topic that's kind of a negative thing or a positive thing, and you want to compare it to something that the audience is going to easily understand what you get and what it is that you're trying to prove by using any type of analogy. So again, use analogies in your arguments. You're going to want to use examples, and you're going to want to use that kind of stuff, but you're also going to want to use analogies so that you can take your topic, which your audience members might not be super familiar with, they might not really understand it all the way, but you can use analogies in ways that make it easy for them to understand what it is that you're presenting and what it is that you're arguing. There's argument by definition. This is when the definition of an idea or a concept is part of your persuasive appeal. And you'd want to start with a general definition that makes an argument about a specific case. So you'd want to basically be clear with defining things. You want to make sure that you are not kind of sugarcoating stuff. You want to be clear and define things in your arguments as well. So basically that's what this is all about. And then finally, argument by relationship. This is when there's a general relationship or correlation of two ideas or concepts. This is when you're taking your argument and relating it to something else, or you're taking a topic and relating it to something else. This is where you use specific examples or cases that are either related to or caused by each other. So again, smoking leads to cancer. Smoking leads to an increase in the amount of money you spend on cigarettes. It's showing the relationships between what it is that it's showing the relationships between A and B to show you the outcomes in a persuasive way. The most important task with this is that the relationship between the ideas is strong. All right, so there's a difference between relationship, correlation, and causation. Correlation occurs when two ideas happen at the same time but do not directly cause each other, whereas causation occurs when one thing causes the other thing to happen. So if you can ever be in a persuasive speech and you can argue causation, where you can say, listen, this thing that I'm trying to persuade you to not do directly causes this. If you keep doing it, it's going to directly cause this. Or if I'm trying to persuade you to do something, to start thinking about something in a new way, or to start taking a certain action and start doing something, it's going to lead to these positive things. There's a cause. This is going to lead to this. If you eat healthier, it's going to result in you being a healthier individual. If you quit smoking, it's going to lead to you having less issues with your health. If you keep smoking, it's going to result in more issues with your health. So you're trying to show A leads to B. Whether that's you do this good thing and it's going to result in a good outcome, or if you do this bad thing, it's going to result in a bad outcome. You're trying to make that connection to show what it is and how that outcome looks so that your audience members can think about it and connect it with their own experiences. Now, there's 5 strategies to persuade that you're going to want to include in each of your speeches. You're going to want to provide sufficient evidence. So again, this is where you're looking up research. This is where you're looking up sources. This is where you're citing your sources throughout your speech, showing us where you're getting your information from so that it's credible. You want to ask for a suspended judgment. You basically want to let your audience know, hey, I know you might have an opinion about this, but please just try to hold on and keep your opinion held back for a little bit. Just try to take in my information, listen to the messages that I'm about to share with you, and then you can make an evaluation of it towards the end. Demonstrate to your audience the cost benefits. Demonstrate to your audience how much they are going to benefit from doing this. Say it's only going to take a minimal amount of effort for you to listen to this, to hear me out, but there's a lifelong time of benefits associated with you listening to this or you having this information. Seek out micro changes. Your goal isn't to make somebody do a complete 180 on any type of topic. It's not like you're going to walk in, people are going to, if for instance, if the argument or the persuasive topic is about pro-choice, for example, and you're giving a speech to an audience of individuals that are mostly pro-life, odds are you're not going to change every single person 180 turnaround. They're not going to leave that speech say, oh, you know what? I believe in what they're saying. I'm pro-choice now. That's not your goal. Your goal is basically to give them something to chew on. Make them start to change their opinion a little bit. Make them start to understand the other side of it. Make them start to buy into what it is that you're sharing, because that leads to a spiral of change. And then social judgment theory. We'll talk about this in a little bit, but it's basically how do we understand where somebody already stands on a topic and how can we use that to our benefit. So provide sufficient evidence, provide overwhelming evidence that any reasonable person would have to accept your position. I mean, just bring in stats and information and examples and people's lived experiences and testimonials, whatever you have to do. Bring in enough of that to the point where people just can't deny what you're saying. Enough that most people could understand your point of view and consider your position. You can't just go up there with your opinion. I'm not looking for speeches where you guys are just sharing your opinions with me. I believe that, whatever your topic might be, whether that's animal rights or whether that's healthy choices or whether that's just to wear your seatbelt on a daily basis. If your topic is wear your seatbelt every time you're in a car and all you're going to talk about is I think you should wear your seatbelt because I think you should wear your seatbelt because, it's not going to be a credible speech. You need to bring in statistics and evidence that show, hey, look, if you don't wear your seatbelt, these are the bad things associated with it. If you do wear your seatbelt, these are the positive things associated with it. Why should you wear your seatbelt? It's easy to wear your seatbelt. It's not that hard. You need to be bringing in evidences like that. You need to be citing sources. You need to be showing how much statistics and how much, if you get into an accident without wearing your seatbelt, you're 10 times or X times more likely to end up in this situation. Research shows that those that don't wear their seatbelt when they're in a car and get in an accident are more likely to. You need to be showing this type of evidence with that. And when you ask for a suspended judgment, again, What you want to constantly be doing when you're in any kind of persuasive context or giving any kind of persuasive presentation to any type of audience, you want to let the audience know, hey, I understand you probably have an opinion about this. I understand you probably already sit on one side of this topic or the other. I understand you already know how you feel about this and what your values are. All I'm asking for is for you to temporarily listen to what I have to say, try to understand my side of things, and then at the end you can kind of make an evaluation for your own. But for the time being, all I'm asking for is the platform and for you to just listen to what I have to say and really try to decipher it and make a decision at the end. But try not to go into the speech already knowing what type of opinion you have. Demonstrate the cost and the benefits. Again, show the audience what they can gain from this, whether it's emotional, physical, environmental, financial, or spiritual. Try to show them throughout the speech why it's beneficial for them to listen to this and consider what you have to say. Again, ask them and seek out micro changes. Ask the audience to make small changes. Don't ask somebody to change their life overnight. If you're talking to a group of smokers, your goal isn't going to be to have them all quit cold turkey at the end of the speech, but maybe suggest to them you can start, smoking less. Maybe there's certain areas where you don't have to smoke, like your car, your truck, or after you eat or whatever. Seek small changes in one area, because small changes, it's called foot in the door. It's basically if you give a mouse a cookie, they'll eventually want everything that you have to offer. You just want to take micro steps. You want to move small. If you make one small change, that often leads to larger, bigger changes down the road for your audience members. And then you're always going to want to consider social judgment theory. And this is the idea that an individual can be persuaded on a topic by having the person accept changes that are close to their already held beliefs. So what you want to do is, in these situations, not so much for this class, but when you ever have to give a presentation or provide information to change people's minds about something, you want to try to understand what their latitude of acceptance is, their latitude of rejection, and if they have a latitude of non-commitment. Latitude of acceptance is when individuals have close to their own held beliefs, but not exactly the same belief. This is when what you're talking about already kind of aligns with what they're saying. So if you are giving a presentation to a conservative audience, a traditional Christian type of audience, and your whole topic is you should not live with your partner until you're married, or you should not have children with your partner until you're married. If it's a topic like that, those people are probably going to buy into this. They're probably going to agree with you. They're probably going to be okay with this. And at the end of it, you're going to see a lot of success because these people already agree with most of that stuff. It's already close to their own held beliefs. Now, if you are giving that presentation, that same presentation about, it's not okay to have children before you're married, and the group maybe a little more liberal or something like that, they might not really agree so much. They might have this on their latitude of rejection, meaning that topic is too close to the reject category. It's too close to what they already believe in is wrong. They're not going to agree with you as easily. They probably believe in the exact opposite. This group might not care so much about, you have to be married to have children. They might not agree with that. That might not be in their wheelhouse. So it's going to be closer to their latitude of rejection. And then you might talk to a neutral group that could really give a crap less and care less about when people have children and when they get married or any of that kind of stuff. So they don't really care. They're not going to accept it. They're not going to reject it. They're really just going to stay where they are on the topic and really just not care. So it's important we use this to figure out, okay, how much does this topic already align with my audience's beliefs? How much do they already accept this and believe in this versus how much do they reject it? Is it on the complete opposite end? Is it the hardest? Is this going to be really hard for me? Or is it a group of non-committed people where it's not really that problematic? They don't really care. They're not going to buy into it. People that are far on the latitude of acceptance and people that are far on the latitude of rejection, they are much easier to persuade than those that are at the latitude of non-commitment where they sit in the middle and they don't really care. Because think about it, people that are already accepting it, they're going to buy into everything you're saying anyhow because they already agree with it. But it's those people on the opposite end of the spectrum, those that already have a strong latitude of rejection towards the topic, you can persuade them really well too, because those are the ones that you have the most ability to change. They already have an opinion about it, a strong opinion about it, and whatever you say is going to stick with them. It's going to ring with them. It's going to fight with them. It's going to make them battle what they already believe in if you do it effectively. And that stuff will sit and ruminate with people on the end of the rejection scale. Whereas non-commitment, they're the toughest group to persuade because quite honestly, they just don't really care what you're talking about. So social judgment theory, know this theory really well. It's super beneficial when you're trying to persuade somebody in a conversation, but also just know its components and the various aspects of the theory. So now there's going to be two different patterns that I want you to use, either one or the other, for your persuasive presentation. These last two slides are very important for you to listen to and be familiar with in terms of creating your outline and practicing your presentation. There's a problem cause solution, and so the first one is problem cause solution. You're either going to use this pattern or what's on the next slide. I've said that like 4 times now, but I just want to stress it. So for this one, you use for persuasive presentations based on questions of policy or questions of fact. And basically you have your introduction as your first part, which still consists of all the same things we've done all semester long. You have your attention getter, your thesis statement, your credibility statement, and then your preview of your main points. And then in your body, though, main point 1 is the problem, main point 2 is the cause, and main point 3 is the solution. So organizing persuasive presentations in a lot of ways, it's going to be a lot easier for you all because I'm giving you the pattern in the book and in this presentation. So it literally looks like this. Your introduction, you have your body, main point 1 is the problem, main point 2 is the cause, main point 3 is the solution, and then you finally have your conclusion, and that consists of the same stuff we've gone over all semester. You restate your thesis, you review the main points that you just went over, and then you hit us with your closing device. You're kind of badumch. So this is problem, cause, solution. When making your outline, you'd want to follow this model used here. Now, obviously, it's going to have more information. There's going to be a lot more text. You're going to cite a lot more sources. You're going to build a stronger argument, but this is the basic model. The next one, which is also a very easy pattern to use, is what's called Monroes motivated sequence pattern. And this looks a little silly, but it's awesome. It's the attention, need, satisfaction, visualization, and action. So the first step is your attention, and this basically can coincide with your attention getter. This is where this is going to take place, is in your attention getter. You're going to make the audience aware of the problem and why it matters. You're going to capture us and draw us in early. Why do we need to listen to this? Why do we need to care? The second part is your need, and this is where you elaborate on the need to address the topic. You say, we need to focus on this. We need to talk about this. Specifically, we need to do this. And this is usually figured out somewhere in, but this is usually like main point 1, where you're focusing on this is the need, we need to focus on this, why is it a problem? Satisfaction, this is going to be like main point 2 in the body of your speech. This is where you propose a solution to the problem. Say this, so basically, the way you're going to do this, I'll explain it again so it makes a little bit more sense. Number 1, attention. This is going to be in your introduction as your attention getter. Following the attention getter in the introduction, you're going to have your thesis statement, you're going to have your credibility statement, and then you're going to have your preview of your main points. The main points in the speech, in the body of the speech, are going to be 2, 3, and 4. Your need, your satisfaction, and your visualization. Main point 1 is the need. You're going to talk about why we need to address the topic. Why is it important to focus on this topic? What are the negative or positive outcomes associated with this topic? What are you going to gain from listening to this topic? The second main point 2, is the satisfaction. You're going to propose a solution to the problem. Listen, we talked about the issues here in main point 1, the need to focus on this and why we need to address the topic. Now I'm going to talk to you about what we can do to fix it. Visualization is the part that people kind of get hung up on because it seems similar to satisfaction, but it's different. Satisfaction, you're saying, this is the solution that I want to propose. This is what we should do. This is the plan. This is the game plan. Visualization is showing them if we follow up with this game plan, if we do use my proposed solution, this is going to be the outcomes associated with it. This is what it will look like if we follow the solution I just proposed in my previous main point. So to go over the body one more time, you got your need, main point 1. This is a problem. This is why it's a problem. Let me show you the evidence that it is a problem. Main point 2, satisfaction. This is how we fix the problem. This is my idea for how the problem can be solved. Main point 3, visualization. If we follow what I just proposed, these are going to be the outcomes associated with it. This is what's going to happen. This is what it's going to look like if we follow that solution that I just offered you. And then you're going to move into your conclusion. You'll restate your thesis. You'll go over the main points. I just told you why this is a problem. I showed you how to fix it, and I showed you what will happen if we do fix it and use this solution I just offered. And then finally, your closer, your clincher, your closing device is going to be a call to action where you tell your audience members to do something. You actually tell each of us to go out and do whatever it is. So if your topic involves for example, if your speech is people don't vote enough in elections, you would bring into attention, you do some kind of clever attention device to make us aware that this is a problem. Main point 2, you would talk about why not voting is an issue, why people are not voting enough, and how this is a problem. Then you would say, here is the solution to the problem. People need to vote more. Visualization, if people vote more, these are the outcomes that would happen if people voted. And then your call to action, the very last part of your speech in the conclusion would be, so go out and vote. And then you'd provide us information about where we can vote, how we can vote, any information that we would need in order to successfully vote. So again, with your persuasive presentation, I either want you using this model, the problem cause solution, where you're telling us there's a problem, what's causing the problem, this is how we can fix the problem, and then, or you're going to use Monroes motivated sequence, where you're going to bring us in, draw our attention, tell us why this is a problem, show us how to fix the problem, tell us what it'll look like after we do fix the problem and follow the solution you offered, and then boom, what's our first step? What can we do to get involved in changing this?